Welcome to Going and Blue, everybody, home of the college football fan. And don't forget about the checklist. Hat check, sunglasses check, Pepsi check, notes check, sources check, and thick skin is a check. And don't forget to send gear to represent your team and yourself in my background. Send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina, 29657. And get yourself a shout out. On to the next video. Today's video idea is actually going to be my video idea, but don't worry, Get a Gang members. I will be using your ideas for future videos. If you're wondering what a Get a Gang is, it's a name that I came up with for the group of people that come up with video ideas and put them in the comments section of my videos. So if you think you have a good video idea, lay it in the comments section and I just might use it. And today's video idea might be a little difficult to explain because it doesn't exist. What am I talking about? I'm talking about conference pledges. Huh? Conference pledges? Yeah. You know, like whenever you pledge to a fraternity, if you're going to college, and you have to go through certain tests to earn full membership. I think college football should set up a similar way to prevent bad decisions by some of these conferences. Because the way TV deals and grant of rights are set up right now, these conferences have to make sure 100% that the teams that they invite into their conference is absolutely what they're looking for and what they need. Most of them turn out, but some of them do not turn out. I'll give you a few examples. Syracuse in the ACC. I don't think it's been a total failure, but I also don't think that Syracuse has quite met the expectations of the ACC as far as what they were expecting from Syracuse. Not much success in football at all. Academics are good. Basketball, of course, they're a pretty good brand. But in football, they've been a big-time letdown for the ACC. So I wouldn't call Syracuse a total failure, just a little disappointing. The next name has been a total failure, and that's Boston College in the ACC. I think the ACC thought that they were going to grab the Boston TV market because, well, Boston College is the only show in town whenever it comes to college football. But Boston is really a professional sport city. They like the Bruins, they like the Celtics, they like the Patriots, and they like the Red Sox. They really don't care about Boston College. And Boston College has been terrible in both football and basketball. They haven't helped the ACC at all. I think Boston College in the ACC has been a total failure. I think the ACC, if they had it to do all over again, they would pick West Virginia over Boston College. I know. People would say, well, a lot of teams would leave if they would have accepted West Virginia. Well, if they knew what they know now, maybe not so much. What about West Virginia in the Big 12? West Virginia hasn't been a total failure in the Big 12, but they have been disappointing. They've been okay in football and okay in basketball. But that's about it. Nothing close to the dominance that we had in the Big East. So I wouldn't say West Virginia's been a failure in the Big 12, but West Virginia has been disappointing. And this is coming from a West Virginia fan. And I don't think West Virginia fits in the Big 12. I mean, it's been over a decade, so the excuse of, well, we just have to get used to it, that really doesn't exist. We've been there long enough to get used to it. The next team is Maryland in the Big Ten. Not a total failure, a little disappointing. They have great academics, so they do help the Big Ten in that area. But in football and basketball, not good at all. Maryland used to be a powerhouse in college basketball, and they've been everything but since joining the Big Ten. Few good years here and there, but nothing to brag about. And of course, in football, same old, not good. And there's Rutgers in the Big Ten. I think they knew what they were getting with Rutgers. But I also think that they thought that they would get a big TV fan base in the New Jersey, New York area. Yeah, Rutgers isn't a big draw in that area, but Rutgers academics does help the Big Ten. So I think they're doing what they're supposed to do, but in sports, they're not good. But I guess the Big Ten was expecting that. Nebraska in the Big Ten, wow, you talk about a letdown. Nebraska has been a huge letdown in the Big Ten. In fact, I would call Nebraska a failure in the Big Ten when it comes to football and basketball. I mean, they're at the beginning. When they joined the Big Ten, Nebraska was pretty good. They won the Big Ten once or twice under Bo Pelini. But ever since then, Nebraska has been terrible. They've missed a bowl in the last 5 or 6 seasons straight. Not good at all. Nebraska has been a failure in the Big Ten. And finally, Colorado in the Pac-12. I would say Colorado has been a failure in the Pac-12. Last year, the worst year by far. Not only did they go 1-11, but they weren't even competitive in their losses. How they beat Cal, I have no idea. Because all of their losses were blowout losses. They weren't competitive at all. So my idea is for conferences to be able to set up teams as pledges and then see if they meet the expectations of the conference. And if they don't, they cut them loose. But if they do, all right, here you go. Here's full-time membership. Here's a good example. What about the ACC dissolving? I have the Big Ten grabbing 4 teams out of the ACC. I have them grabbing North Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech, and Florida State. Let's say Georgia Tech doesn't meet expectations. They're like, this was not a good pickup at all. We will sign North Carolina, Duke, and Florida State as full members. But we're going to let you go, Georgia Tech, and we're going to look at other members. Maybe that would open up a spot for Pitt, because I do not have Pitt going into the Big Ten, even though they have AU status. They have a good football brand right now. It pains me to say that, but Pitt does have a good football brand. And they're having a good basketball season this year as well. So maybe if a Georgia Tech flunks out, they could put Pitt into that spot. Now for the SEC, I have them grabbing Clemson, NC State, Miami Hurricanes, and Virginia. Let's just say Miami Hurricanes are not meeting expectations. And the SEC is like, look, this is not working out, Miami Hurricanes. We're going to let you go, and we're going to take a look at Virginia Tech. And that brings me to the Big 12. If the ACC dissolves, I think the Big 12 should get Virginia Tech, Louisville, Pitt, and Syracuse. Let's say that Syracuse doesn't work out. They're like, sorry, Syracuse, we got to let you go. We saw that the SEC let the Miami Hurricanes go, so we're going to go check out the Miami Hurricanes. So then the teams that got cut could get pledged to the other conferences to see if they meet the expectations of those conferences. What about the Group of 5 teams? Well, the incoming Group of 5 teams for the Big 12, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. Let's just say Houston doesn't meet expectations. The Big 12 is like, sorry, you're not doing what we thought you would do. We got to let you go. We're going to go look at other teams without penalty. Remember, this scenario is without penalty both to the conference and to the team. And trust me, these Group of 5 teams would be okay with being pledges and not being full-time members to get a chance to prove their worth. And you talk about putting their 100% into something. If you're a pledge trying to get full-time membership, you will put 100% into proving that you deserve that full-time membership. But what about other Group of 5 teams? Teams that could get a shot if they had a pledge scenario to where they had a chance to prove their worth in a certain conference. Well, we've heard that the Pac-12 is looking at SMU. There should be an announcement within the next month or so that the Pac-12 is adding SMU. But what if SMU doesn't meet expectations? What if this is just a desperate move? Well, too bad, so sad. You signed them to the conference, so you're stuck with them. Well, in the pledge scenario, if they're not meeting expectations, it's like, man, this is not working out. Sorry, SMU. Better luck wherever you go. And the conference that SMU is coming from, the AAC, leaves that spot open for SMU. That way they can have a landing spot if they don't land the full-time membership from the Pac-12. Then there's Tulane. I think there's a chance that the Pac-12 could check out Tulane. In a pledge scenario, the Pac-12 could reach out to them and say, hey, what do you think about playing for the Pac-12 for the next, 4 or 5 years? We'll see if it works out. If you meet our expectations, we'll sign you as a full-time football member of the Pac-12. Tulane would jump at the opportunity, and they would put their 100% into proving, yes, we would be an asset to the Pac-12. What about Memphis? This would be a perfect scenario for Memphis because maybe the ACC and the Big 12 could be interested in Memphis. First, they try out for the ACC, and the ACC's like, you're good, but you didn't quite meet expectations. Then the Big 12's like, hey, come over here. We'll give you a shot as well. Same for USF. I think USF would be a good brand for both the Big 12 and the ACC. The Big 12, it gives a traveling partner for UCF. But again, if they're not meeting expectations, they can cut them loose. Then for the ACC, if they lose a Florida brand, they could replace them with the USF. And if they don't work out, they could cut them loose. I think Rice is being looked at the Pac-12. A pledge scenario would be perfect for Rice in the Pac-12. I think it would benefit both parties. Boise State deserves a chance. A pledge scenario would give Boise State a chance. And if they prove their worth, the Pac-12 could accept them as a full-time football member, but the Pac-12 looks down on Boise State because of their academics. But in a pledge case scenario, at least Boise State would have a chance to prove their worth. Maybe even the Big 12 will look at Boise State in a pledge case scenario. Then there's Fresno State. I think the Pac-12 should grab up Fresno State. But if they're a little iffy on the situation, you could pledge Fresno State, and then they meet expectations. You add them as a full-time member. San Diego State. Everybody is expecting the Pac-12 to add San Diego State, but it wouldn't have to be a full-on commitment. You could pull them on as a pledge. That way, hey, if they're not meeting the expectations you thought they would, then you can cut them loose. And finally, Appalachian State. Maybe Appalachian State would have a chance in the ACC if the ACC started falling apart. But at the same time, in a pledge case scenario, there's no risk involved. If Appalachian State doesn't work out, you can cut them loose and they can go back to the Sun Belt. I would say the same exact scenario for East Carolina. So y'all know in the comment section, what do you think about a pledge case scenario? I don't have all the details. I don't know how the legalities would work out. I think the conference that these teams would be leaving would be required to keep that spot open. That way, if they get cut loose from their pledge, they have a safe landing spot. I think it would benefit all the teams involved, and I think it would benefit all the conferences involved as well. I think conferences would take more chances, and I think more teams would have a chance to land in a Power 5 conference if there was a pledge case scenario. That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.